The night air was thick, clinging to my skin like an invisible film as I walked down the deserted street. The streetlights flickered erratically, casting twisted shadows that danced along the cracked pavement. I had walked this path countless times before, but tonight, something felt different. The silence was heavier, the darkness deeper. I checked my phone, no messages. It was past midnight, and I knew I should have been home already. My apartment was only a few blocks away, but each step felt sluggish, like I was moving through something unseen. The occasional rustling of leaves sent chills down my spine. Then I heard it, a sound, faint at first, almost like whispering. I stopped in my tracks, heart pounding in my chest. The whispering wasn't coming from a single direction. It was everywhere, surrounding me, swirling in the air. I turned, scanning the empty street. Nothing, just the flickering streetlights and the distant hum of a car engine somewhere in the city. I told myself it was my imagination, the exhaustion playing tricks on me, and then footsteps, soft, deliberate, just behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet. But again, nothing. The whispering grew louder. I forced myself forward, walking faster, refusing to run. Running would only feed my paranoia. But the footsteps behind me didn't stop. They matched my pace, growing heavier, closer. I reached the corner of my street, my building in sight, and that's when I saw it. A figure standing under the last working streetlight before my apartment. Tall, motionless, just standing there. Its face was obscured by shadows, but I could feel its gaze burning into me. I hesitated. My mind screamed at me to turn around, to find another way home, but something told me that wouldn't matter. This thing, whatever it was, wasn't going to let me leave. It was waiting, and then it took a step forward. My breath hitched as the figure moved. It didn't lurch or shuffle. It was smooth, deliberate, as if it had all the time in the world. The whispering around me intensified, each voice overlapping, speaking in tongues I didn't understand. I took a step back. The figure took another step forward. The streetlight above it flickered violently, casting glimpses of something unnatural. Its limbs seemed too long, its head tilted at an unsettling angle. My stomach twisted as an icy dread washed over me. I needed to move. Now my building was just ahead. If I could make it inside, lock the door behind me, I'd be safe. At least, that's what I told myself. I bolted. The moment my foot left the pavement, the whispers turned to a shriek, an inhuman, ear-piercing wail that sent my legs into overdrive. I could hear the thing moving behind me, fast, impossibly fast. My vision blurred as my heart pounded in my ears. Reaching my building's entrance, I fumbled for my keys with shaking hands. The metal jingled, slippery with sweat. I could feel it behind me, closer now, the air thick with something foul. The whispering was right in my ear. I shoved the key into the lock, twisting it just as a shadow lunged at me from behind. The door slammed shut. Silence. I stood there panting, forehead pressed against the door. My entire body trembled. I waited, expecting the thing to bang on the door to try to force its way in. Nothing. Minutes passed. Slowly I turned to face the darkened hallway of my apartment building. It was quiet, eerily so. Too quiet. That's when I noticed it. The whispers. They weren't outside anymore. They were inside. A chill ran down my spine as the realization sank in. The whispers hadn't faded when I shut the door. They had followed me inside. I turned, scanning the dimly lit hallway. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. If I could just get inside, lock the door, maybe. A creak. It came from the staircase. I whipped my head toward it, heart hammering. The light above the stairs flickered, and for a split second I saw movement, a shadow shifting just out of sight. I wasn't alone. Forcing my legs to move, I hurried to the stairs, taking them two at a time. Each step groaned beneath my weight, the sound swallowed by the growing whispers. They were getting louder, more frantic. Second floor, I didn't dare look back. Another creak, this one closer. I pushed forward, nearly stumbling as I reached the third floor. My apartment door was just ahead. My shaking fingers grasped the key, jamming it into the lock. Click, the door swung open, and I threw myself inside, slamming it shut behind me. Silence. I pressed my back against the door, my breath ragged. The whispers were gone, but something felt wrong. My apartment was pitch black. I had left a light on before leaving, hadn't I? A faint noise came from the living room, a slow, deliberate inhale. I wasn't alone. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The sound of that slow inhale filled the darkness, stretching the silence between us. I wasn't alone. My fingers hovered over the light switch, but something in my gut screamed not to turn it on. I swallowed hard, trying to focus, trying to hear where it was. Then the step, softly and barefoot, coming from the living room. My blood ran cold. I had locked the door. No windows were open. No one should be here. And yet, another step, closer. The air felt heavy, thick like molasses. My hand trembled as I reached into my pocket, pulling out my phone. The screen's glow barely illuminated the room, but it was enough to see a figure, tall, unmoving, standing in the center of my living room. It wasn't facing me. Its head was tilted slightly as if listening. The whispers returned, but this time they weren't in my ears. They were coming from it. A distorted, overlapping chorus of voices spilling from its unmoving lips. My stomach twisted. Then, in a single jerking motion, its head snapped toward me. I dropped my phone. Darkness swallowed the room, and then a voice, not a whisper, clear, right in front of me. "You let me in." My breath caught in my throat. The voice was deep, unnatural, layered, like multiple voices speaking at once. I couldn't see it anymore, but I could feel it right there, inches from my face. I reached for my phone, hand shaking so badly I could barely grip it. My fingers slid across the screen, desperately trying to turn on the flashlight. Another breath. Not mine. The air grew colder, my skin prickling with goosebumps. Then a hand brushed against mine. I yelped, scrambling backward, slamming into the wall. My phone clattered to the floor again, the screen flickering weakly before going dark. Silence. Total suffocating silence. I wasn't even sure I was breathing anymore. Then, just when I thought it was gone, a whisper, "You can't shut me out." The voice was inside my head now, slithering through my thoughts like an oily fog. My vision blurred. My body felt heavy. I fought the overwhelming urge to close my eyes. "Let me in." I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my hands against my ears. "Let me in." It was everywhere, inside me, and then knocking, hard, violent, at my front door. I gasped, sucking in air like I had been drowning. The weight lifted. The whispers stopped. I bolted to my feet, throwing myself at the door, unlocking it without hesitation. The hallway was empty, but something was different. The silence outside was no longer comforting, because I knew I had let it in, and it was never going to leave.